والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. Continue our class on the Khuluquna. Still on النماذج uh, من أدلة السنة والجماعة. And yesterday we were taking stories. We're doing stories on the many stories actually. Many stories accounts, on people who experience, but usually through dreams, of those that passed away, in that day, benefit, right, from the recitation of those who are alive. But again, in Islam, these are not taken as proofs, right? They're just stories. They're stories, right? And it's up to the person to believe it or not, right? But they're not taken as actually hard proof, right? So, I have many stories in Tarim, the many stories, of people who are actually saved. The punishment was removed, they were raised, right, just by the recitation of those who are alive. And it's really up to you if you want to believe it or not believe it, right? So, but as I mentioned earlier on, previously, right, that it is not harm. There's no harm. There's no harm doing recitations, right? There's no harm. In fact, a lot of benefit, right? And if you're not good, if the rewards are going to be transferred to them, you're gonna get it. Right? So what harm is there? Right? So either they get it or you get it. Right? It's a good thing. And it occupies people from doing other things, right? So you go to a janazah and everybody's doing one juz each, right? It occupies them from chit-chatting and gossiping and other forms of sin. Always time, right? So yesterday, let's see. Okay, right. So we were at the okay, we were so we were at the hadith. So what is proven? What is proven, right? From the hadith, right, is that doing zikr and doing Quran around the grave, right, it causes for mercy to descend, like, onto that area, and that benefits the deceased. So be very clear on the different proofs here. Okay, let me just repeat the entire thing. Okay, first and foremost, recitation of the Quran is not haram. Right? Even if you recite it by the grave or by the house of someone who's deceased, recitation of the Quran as a general rule is something that is recommended. First and foremost, number one. Okay, understand that. Number one. Number two, wherever Quran is recited or dhikr is being done, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. Right? So also both of these 2 points, you can put bracket proven. Right? Proven by hadith. Right? So hadith and also Quran. Right? Proven. Okay, proven. Right? So the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends. Right? So the deceased benefits not from the reward of the Quran in this case, right? In this case, the proof here is not about the reward transferring. The proof here from the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the proof here is that mercy descends onto the grave, right? And the mercy will lighten or even stop the punishment that's going on in the grave. Okay, see the difference? See the difference there? Right? So the first one is about what? It's about Quran, right? And dhikr is permissible. Any regardless, it's permissible. You can Quran and do Quran and do dhikr wherever you are, lah, please. Except in the bathroom, as I mentioned, or for Quran when you're not on your menses. Right. Secondly, right, reciting Quran and dhikr, it brings the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this decreases the punishment in the grave. Right. So still not discussing about whether the reward is going to the person or not. Okay, so just these two proofs itself should be enough for us to read Quran. Right. These first two proofs, and these proofs are proven, right, from Quran and Sunnah and from the Hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So even if someone does not believe that the reward is being transferred, even if, right, even if someone does not believe the reward is being transferred to the deceased, is that any reason to not recite Quran around the grave of the deceased? I ask that question. Is it a good enough reason? So you don't believe it's being transferred, right? Someone doesn't believe it's being transferred. Oh, your deeds are only what you do when you're alive. Okay, fine. So what's wrong with me reading Quran? There is proof that I can read Quran wherever I want to. And there is proof that wherever I read Quran, the mercy of Allah descends. Right? So what's with them saying to people haram to read Quran for a deceased? Why? Oh, they say, oh, it doesn't reach the deceased. So, right. So, it doesn't reach the deceased, then what? I can't read the Quran just because you believe it doesn't reach the deceased. Then why can't I read the Quran? Why? Read lah. Right. I mean, think about it. Think about it. The argument makes no sense, right? The argument when they say you're not allowed to read Quran actually makes no sense. So even if they were right, even if right, they were right, it does not call for the abandonment of reading the Quran around the deceased. Correct? It definitely does not call for saying that it is haram to read Quran around the deceased. Right? So call for that. And learn logic. It's not logical. You get it? Right? You're putting two things together and they don't relate. Okay, so when you understand logic, you understand that these arguments make no sense whatsoever. They actually does not make sense. Because even if you agree with them, yeah, maybe there isn't religion, it's okay. So read the Quran. Right? Just read the Quran. What's wrong with that? Hmm. So mashallah. So it's really, what's wrong. Why you can't read Quran? Except that it is a plot of the shaitan, the Dajjal, to stop people from Quran. Full stop. Okay, and of course, if you extend the discussion in that it does reach a disease, then a lot more reason for you to read the Quran around the deceased, right? Now you have a whole lot of reasons to do so, to gift it to the deceased. Okay, tamam. Right, so now we're going to the proofs that the reward does indeed reach the deceased. Okay, so we have finished the first two parts, like of is it permissible to read the Quran by the grave? Yes, regardless of any effect that you believe in. Okay? Bottom rule or base rule of reading the Quran is recommended, not even permissible, recommended. At any point in your day, you want to read Quran, read all you want. You don't even have to have wudu if you're not going to touch a mushaf, right? If I'm going to sit there, I'll read on to Ayatul Kursi, read lah, read from your memory. Like, permissible, I have no wudu. Yeah, you can read Quran without wudu, as long as you don't touch the mushaf, right? You can read Quran from your memory without wudu, right? Which is get less reward. But you can reward nonetheless, right? Tamam. So Imam Suyuti, he actually mentions, okay, right. So anyway, I'm just going to mention the statement here, right? So um and Abi Sha'asa, who is the companion of Sayyidina Ibn Abbas. Okay, he's one of the scholars of the Tabi'in. He said that it is recommended, right, to recite the Quran or Surah Ra'd, to recite Surah Ra'd, right, and this will lighten, right, the punishment on the, or this will lighten the punishment on the deceased, or it will lighten the Sakatul Maut, right, on the deceased, right? This is important to know. Right, and know that this is a proof that reciting Surah Ra'd actually benefits the deceased. Right, it's a form of benefit, even if you don't believe it as a transfer of reward, it does benefit, as we mentioned before. Right, it causes for the mercy of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to descend. Right, and so and also with regards to the actions of people, right, from the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam till our time today, right, is that they when they when it's from the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, okay, from the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam till our zaman today, that when they bury the deceased, they do a talqeen, right? If the men will know this, right? If they hold the janazah, the men will know this. They do a talqeen, of the deceased person, right, in his grave, right? And the talaqin is basically, they will say to the deceased, the angels will come to you, right? They will ask you six questions, right? They will say, who is your Lord? The answer is Allah. What is your religion? The answer is Islam. Who is your prophet? The answer is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where's your qibla? You say the Kaaba. Right? What is your imam? Say the Quran. And who are your brethren? Say the Muslims. Right? So they do a talqeen. Right? When someone passes, when they bury the person, they do a talqeen. Right? They say the answers to these questions that the angels will ask. Of course, them saying it does not affect the answer or the disease, because you can only answer as to how you lived. Like if you live your life according to the answers, you'll be able to answer the questions. But they do this talqeen, right, for those who are alive here, right? So they wake up. And you wake, those who are still alive, when you hear it, you wake up, you wake up to the reality of your life, and you begin to buck up, right, and do better, right, as a Muslim, do better in this life. Stop wasting your time, right? Right? So they do this talqeen, right? And of course, from the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the deceased, they can hear us, right? That is from the words of the Prophet Sallallahu himself. The deceased, they can hear us. So again, there are people in this time spreading all these lies, right? Saying to people, the deceased cannot hear you. Like, as if you don't believe in the hereafter, you know. I mean, sometimes I do wonder, do they actually, like, these people who are all out there who speak against all this stuff, do they believe that there's a hereafter? Then why would the hearing be cut off? Why? Just because they died? No, they just went to a different realm. But why can't they hear? Who says they can't hear? What's your proof they can't hear? Science? No. No, they went into a realm beyond science, right? Nam, right. So right. So it was Imam Ahmad. He was once asked, about the recitation, of Quran around the grave, and he approved of it. He approved of recitation of Quran around the grave, right? And he mentioned that there is a need to do so. Okay, and also this is an action that has been going on in the Muslim Ummah for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's across the Muslim Ummah. It's not just one country or two countries or one society or community. No, right? This is across the board. It's been going on since the time of the Prophet ﷺ all the way to the 1960s when this new ideology appeared. You get me? Right? So what Islam is how old? I mean, Islam is, of course, from Nabi Adam alayhi salam, of course. Right? But, the Ummah of Rasulullah ﷺ, how old? 1,400 plus years old, right? And there's the Ummah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So for 1,400 years, these people who speak against this, they are also making a claim that for 1,400 years, the ulama had no idea what they were talking about. And that can't be. This is the ulama of Islam. I mean, it's our scholars. And the best of them were the first of them. Right? The earlier ones were the best of our scholars. So for 1,400 years, all our scholars did not see that this action, so called, as they claim, is haram. Can't be. It can't be that you had some, awakening in the 1960s. Then you are the one to realize that it is haram to read Quran around the grave, and for 1,400 years, our great scholars never saw it. Can't be, right? Can't. That is really, in a sense, having a sultan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah give the best brains, the best minds to the religion, in service of the religion. Same thing like the hijab, those people who speak against the hijab being wajib and being compulsory. Now in I think they began saying this nonsense in 1980. They began doing it in 1980s, right? Saying the hijab is not wajib. Oh, so what? Rasulullah, he passed away in the 600s, right? Yeah, he passed away in the 600s. 1,400 years. No one figured out that it was not wajib. Then you in 1980s, some feminists, with no background in Islamic studies, with no Arabic, with no nothing. Suddenly you have some enlightenment that you figured out from the Quran, the hijab is culture and not ruling. Hmm. Right. I mean arrogance lah. Right. It's nothing but sheer arrogance. So for 1,400 years, all our scholars were wrong. None of them figured it out. Right. So, no. It's arrogance. It's arrogance and nafs. Nothing more than that. Arrogance and nafs. The nafs does not want to wear the hijab. And they're too arrogant, right, to say that, they don't know. They don't know Islamic law. They're too arrogant to bow their heads and to submit. Now, okay, so same thing, same story here, right? So out of nowhere, you think that you figured it out, you didn't figure it out, you're just looking it up. Now, so Imam Suyuti, so the proof that the scholars have taken, right, that the reward of the Quran does indeed reach, right, the deceased, right? They do the qiyas, right? It's based on qiyas, okay? So how is law derivation in Islam? Law derivation in Islam, first, source, first master, or first source is the Quran, okay? Second source is Sunnah, the Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his words. Third source is qiyas. So what is qiyas? Qiyas is to compare. Okay? Right. So qiyas is basically and qiyas is based on the Prophet and Quran. Mm. And so qiyas does not go beyond the scope of Quran and Hadith, but what it does is that it extracts principles from the Quran and Hadith, right? And then apply the principles, not the actions directly, but principles. Get me? Okay, so not direct actions, but principles, right? And they apply the principles onto new methods, right? That the Prophet ﷺ did not address, he did not prohibit, but did not address it. Right? So they actually apply the principle to derive the law of these new methods. And qiyas is binding, is binding. So like for an example of this is the law of smoking, obviously, a law of smoking, right? So before they discovered that smoking actually harms the human body, before they discovered, right, that smoking actually harms the human body, right? When people ask what is the law of smoking, the ring of smoking, and they didn't know that it actually harmed the human body, right? They did a qiyas, they did a comparison, like with smoking to garlic, right? To eating, raw garlic. Because eating raw garlic is makruh because of the bad smell, right? The bad smell that comes from the mouth of a person. So there is a similarity in that principle, right? So eating raw garlic, right, is makruh, right? Because it gives you a bad smell, bad breath, right? So from the principle of that you have bad breath from eating raw garlic, and this bothers other people because you're walking around smelly, right? And so the ruling becomes makruh. So therefore, the principle here in making yourself smell smelly and then going around and bothering people in the masjid, especially, right, it makes your action makruh, right? Disliked or offensive. So they do a qiyas, a comparison, and they say, okay, therefore, smoking is offensive, right? Because it's smelly, right? It makes you smelly, and you go to the masjid and you stink, you smell like cigarettes, right? So that's just the original ruling at first before 1960s, right? But when Nazis came and they found out through science, right, that smoking is detrimental, it does harm the human being, and it harms those around the human being, right? The person himself and those around him. So direct smoking, passive smoking is harmful, like on the human being. Straight away, now no kias anymore is direct proof from the Quran itself, right? Is direct proof from the Quran itself, right? Whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all right, or you believe, right? Give out of your wealth and do not throw yourselves into harm, I mean, by your own hands. Don't throw yourself into harm by your own hands. There is an ayat, a verse in the Quran. There is a prohibition. You are not allowed to harm yourself knowingly, right? So knowingly, you're not allowed to harm yourself. It's haram in Islam to do that. So the ruling quickly changed. The moment they discovered that it was harmful, it quickly changed into haram. And that is directly from the Quran. I had the proof of it. No, so and of course it's stronger. Yani. So I mean, studying Islam opens up your mind, right? Studying Islam opens up your mind. A lot of people they don't study Islam. Then they want to comment, they want to judge, they want to, bring in their own ideas, and you don't give it its due. And that's the biggest fault of our zaman. You don't want to put in the time, you don't want to put in the effort, you don't want to go and study, okay, fine. Then don't be arrogant about it. Be humble, right? Be humble about it. But if you want to question, take the time, go and study. I put aside time, go and study. And don't judge something and you have not given it time. That doesn't make sense. Tamam. Okay, so the proof that those scholars have taken is by qiyas. Right? The proof that the reward reaches the deceased, it is by qiyas. Right? So which is basically of the hadith, right, whereby dua, right? Dua it does reach the deceased, sadaqah, right, charity, right? Because the previous hadith, about charity that is running, right? Sadaqah jariyah. Sadaqah jariyah, that means there is a hadith about that, about charity that is running. Right? So you build a well, you build a masjid, you build a madrasa with your own money, and then the charity is running. I mean, it's continuous. You get the reward. So it's all of these are from the hadith, and they are proofs, and it's all proofs that the reward does reach you. Right? The reward does reach a person even after he has passed away. Like if his deed is continuous, right? And then fasting and Hajj, right? All of these things, right? Forms all of these four specific forms of worship have hadith, right? To support them, right? So, for example, someone passes away, right, and they have not made up their fasting from Ramadan, for example, right? This is a law of Islam, right? They have not made up their fasting from Ramadan. Then, before their money is being used to distribute for inheritance, because basically money when it is left behind, there are a few things that you need to do first, before it is distributed by inheritance laws, right? So first and foremost, the money needs to be used like to prepare the janazah. Okay, so the money of a deceased, right? His money is to be used to prepare his janazah, right? To pay for whatever payment is needed. For example, to buy the land, right, whereby his grave is gonna be, right? To buy the coffin, right? To pay whoever is gonna wash his body. So whatever is wajib, right? On the janazah, the money is actually taken from the one who has passed away. Right? But of course, anybody in the family, you want to sponsor, you want to pay for it, it's up to you. Right, but if no one has money or no one wants to give them money, then they take from the inheritance of the person who's passed away. First off. Okay, then thereafter, after the money is being used to handle the janazah, then the next thing in line is to pay off any debts. Right. So if this deceased person has debts, then second thing in line is that the money is being used, right, to pay off any debts that this person has. Okay, after the debt is paid off, then now you look, does this person have fastings that they owe? Right, from Ramadan? Do they have fasting they owe from Ramadan? If they are, then you pay fidya. Right, fidya on every day of fasting, one would, right? So you pay for that. Which is why it's important, right, for you to inform the people around you if you have fastings or not, or write it down somewhere. So if you were to die tomorrow, right, at least the people who are close to you, they know you actually have how many days of fasting from Ramadan. Okay. And I just like, so for me, I just told my husband, okay, I finished my fasting for Ramadan. I finished my qada for Ramadan. So at least he knows. Like, so he knows I have no more qada. Yeah, khalas, I'm done. And really, I advise you all women, please, before the coming in of Muharram, get your fastings done. Make it like a rule every year. Okay, you have Ramadan goes ends. You have Shawwal, the Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah. What excuse do you have that you're not doing your makeup fast? Unless you have nifas the entire of Ramadan, you have 3 days, you're gonna be hard on your breastfeeding. Okay, fine. But if you're a normal woman, you're not pregnant, you're not breastfeeding, you're just living your life, fast lah. Like, I don't understand women who you're not pregnant, you're not breastfeeding, you're fine, and you don't do your makeup fasts all the way until the next Shaban. What's wrong with you? I mean, seriously, why? Why? Sabiqun, rush to this. Make it a ruling on yourself before, put it before Muharram. I would say before, the Hijjah. And for me, I finish my qada before the Hijjah because I want the Hijjah to be purely sunnah fastings. Right? But you have the whole of Shawwal, for goodness sake, and then you have the whole of Zulqa'dah. Right? So I don't wonder, people who like, you have no excuse why you're not fasting, but you don't do your qada. As if showing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not your priority. You get me? It is, show Allah, it is your priority. You owe Allah fastings. Right? Do it ASAP. Get out of Ramadan. Once you're out of Ramadan, once you're not in your menses, quickly get it done. And for most of us, 7 days, 10 days, the max is 15 days. It's not hard to do it in 2 months. So, now, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, right? So it's the also second thing is fastings, Hajj, right? If the person has not done Hajj, right, then money put out for Hajj, my internet is going to cut off soon, eh? You put in you do Hajj, right? Money to put in Hajj, and then the money gets distributed amongst the inheritors, right? So it said here that if you can do fidya and you can do Hajj for the deceased person, is proof that the reward does reach. Right. So if you just for some acts of worship, you should reach for all acts of worship, right? In that way. No time so connected. Right. So if you just for some acts of worship, it should reach for all acts of worship. There's a qiyas. Like, yes, there is a comparison.